There is no relationship without emotional availability. I don't care how good somebody is in the bedroom. I don't care how good they are in the kitchen. I don't care how good they are anywhere else in life. So long as there is no emotional availability, if they do not have the ability to recognize, to tune in and tap in with their emotional state, there cannot be a relational connectivity. Now, you may have interactions, you may have engagements, you may have liaisons and such, but one thing you will not have is a true connection that quantifies a healthy relationship dynamic. Yeah, you may have toxicity, you may have what seems to be passion, what seems to be excitement, which is nothing more than toxicity in most cases. But if you do not have the aspect of emotional availability, there will be no true intimacy. And intimacy is not something that starts in the bedroom. It's something that starts at a heart to heart connection. So, that being said, let's get into 6 clear signs that they are indeed emotionally available. And why they? Because, we're never the problem. It's got to be them. So, we got to be able to see it in somebody else, right? It's never us. God forbid we're the emotionally unavailable one. No. It's everybody else, which is also why I created a 3-part series, so far 3 parts, of Confessions of an Unemotionally Available Man. So you can go check that out by clicking the links in the description below. But till then, let's get into the 6 clear signs that they are indeed emotionally available. Number 1, they have the ability to express their emotions and do not hold back in doing so. So this one is crucial. It's straightforward, but it's also vital. This is the foundational element, which is an ability for an individual to express themselves, which means they have a clear understanding of their own emotional state, right? So you can't express yourself if you don't actually recognize that aspect of yourself. If you are closed off, if you are numbed emotionally, if you have lived a life up to this point where you are not in tune with your own emotional state, then you will not know how to express yourself. And so if you want to see whether or not somebody is actually emotionally available, see if they have the ability to speak upon, to express, to articulate where they are emotionally. So that's number 1, straightforward, straight to it. Number 2 is they're willing to communicate through issues instead of suppressing those issues. Now, this is another one that has to obviously do with expression. It has to do with communication, right? So they not only have the ability to express their emotions, to recognize those emotions, but they also will not suppress certain things. So this is a sort of individual who is not afraid to be quote unquote vulnerable within any given situation. And especially as men, we've been taught this narrative that, for a man to be a man, you must be so staunch, so stoic, so hard that you show no emotion, you express no emotion, and you recognize no emotion. When in truth, all we're doing is suppressing those emotions, and they start to leak out onto everybody else, first ourselves, and then they start to project to the rest of the world. And so an emotionally available individual is going to look to communicate them. And you don't have to go out of your way to get them to communicate. They're going to have a natural tendency to communicate what's going on. Now, sometimes you may have to dig a little bit. Sometimes you may have to pull, but it's not going to be work. It's not going to be hard work. It's not going to be labor intensive. Instead, they have the propensity within themselves to communicate without suppressing what is actually going on. They're not going to, I'm fine, I'm fine, nothing, when there is really something that is going on at the core. Number 3, they are conscious of the subtle shifts in your own emotional state. So this is what we call emotional intelligence, the ability to not only recognize your own emotional state, but the emotional states of others. And I'm not talking about being a psychic here, right? Don't lead your partner on to have to be somebody that is reading your mind, because that is a recipe for disaster. We want to be as communicative as possible. We want to speak to one another, talk to one another, feel comfortable enough to speak on whatever is going on, which also means you must have a healthy foundation within that relationship that allows you to do so. You feel comfortable, they feel comfortable. You guys are willing to express whatever's going on internally. Therefore, they have the ability to recognize in you what they recognize in themselves. They know that if there are these shifts going on and there seems to be something off, they can see that there's something off. They can read the room, as we may say, right? They're not going to look to overstep and stomp all over it when they realize, wait a minute, you're backing off a little bit, or there's some sort of dissonance that may be going on. Maybe you're showing one thing, but emotionally something else is showing itself. And this takes tapping into our intuitive space, which all of us have. We often say that women have, more of that intuitive understanding. And I do agree in some respect, but we can all develop the ability to be tapped into ourselves. All of us have that spiritual essence that can recognize in another that something is going on below the surface. And again, this isn't about being a psychic. It's about being intuitive. It's about being somebody who's so present that you want to be there for your partner. And this is both ways, right? When we talk about emotional availability, it's not about them doing it and then you kind of just chilling back, taking a back seat. This is an engagement, an interaction, two present people being in the midst of each other's presence. Number 4, they are open to receiving as well as giving love and affection. This one is key. Learning to receive love is oftentimes the longest journey that most people will take within a lifetime. And I'm not saying it has to be the longest journey. I'm not saying that it has to be this arduous process. But for most of us, we have been raised in conditionality, and I can't even call it love. We only do because that's the best title I guess we have in the English language. But we use conditions in order to punish or to reward, right? To manipulate the behaviors of others. And so we get so used to that we don't know how to actually receive love. We don't know how to be loved for who we are. We talk about this, I want to be loved unconditionally. I want to be loved for who I am. If only people could see me for who I was and they could love me for who I was, then life would be sweet. Well, maybe it would. But guess what? So long as you do not have the aptitude or the ability to receive love, you won't be able to receive love. It doesn't matter how much love somebody has to give. It doesn't matter how unconditional somebody is in the giving of their love. So long as you can't receive it, you won't have the ability. And so when you have an individual who has not developed or cultivated the ability to receive your love, that person is probably not in a space of emotional availability. Maybe they're in the process. Maybe they're learning, right? This isn't saying if you have these traits, leave them right now. That's not what I'm saying. Somebody might actually be genuinely doing their best, like I was when I finally came to terms with my emotional unavailability. When I realized that I was displaying these characteristics from a lifetime of subconscious programming, I started doing things different, being somebody different. It wasn't anybody else's job to do it for me or to hold my hand through it. But nevertheless, there were some people who were very patient with me during this time. So I'm not saying to completely neglect, abandon, unless that relationship is finito and you're trying to play Captain Save a bro or Captain Save a pro, then yeah, it's time to leave that situation. Then it's time to leave that situation. Like if it's inherently a toxic relationship dynamic, if and y'all know, when when you're supposed to be in it, when, okay, this person is actually genuinely who they say that we have that intuitive feel. We just have to get back into getting in tune with ourselves. We got to get back into silence. We got to get back into meditation, into reflection, as opposed to constant distraction. But that's a story for another time. So also developing this ability or cultivating the ability to receive love is a practice. It's something that we actively do. It's something that we have to intentionally set out for within our lives. Like we can't just, go from not receiving love and not knowing how to receive love to all of a sudden one day we wake up, oh, we know how to receive love. No, we have to cultivate the ability. We have to relearn and unlearn certain things. And so I created a piece of content that speaks on exactly that, how to receive love. It's just simply stated, simple, straightforward, how to receive love. So make sure to check that video out when you get a chance if you might be interested. Probably more than interested if you're in a place of you're feeling desperate that something has to change. Number 5, they do not project their insecurities onto you or others, but instead process them in a healthy way. Now, there's no perfection in this, right? Sometimes we just happen to project a little bit of insecurity here and there. But what I'm talking about here is the type of individual who is aware, who is conscious, who moves through life knowing that, that's my jealousy acting up. That's my own envy acting up. That's my own stories and narratives acting up. That has nothing to do with what's actually going on in my physical surrounding, right? Now, of course, you don't gaslight yourself in a situation. And if you're sensing something, you just kind of, neglect it, see none, hear none. But what I'm speaking of is the individual to recognize like, okay, I have insecurities that I'm working through, that all of us do, that we're continuously, purging out of our lives, that we're shedding like a snakeskin. And so in the process of doing so, this individual is able to recognize in themselves that this is an insecurity and it's in me. It's not the other person and what they're doing that's bringing this up, but instead it is me. the way in which I am feeling. This is my emotional state. These are my own perceived emotional wounds. And so from that place, I'm not going to put that burden onto you. I'm not going to drag you into my fight. I'm going to process those emotions in a healthy way, which is either if it's, getting the professional help, then so be it. For me, it's sitting on that beautiful, comfy leather seat right there, just in meditation, eyes closed, shut away from all stimuli, and getting space and time to myself, with myself, for myself. And then getting into this right here, getting into a journal and starting to actually see what is processing through me. What is the truth and what is the lie, right? Taking a walk when it's not, 17 degrees in California for some reason out of nowhere. I will go outside and take a walk. I will be with myself in order to investigate what's truly going on. And it's not just when things are thick, right? It's not just when I have these, harder to deal with emotions. I do this on a regular basis. It's a practice. All of this is a practice. It's a way of life, which feeds into the last one, number 6, which is they are doing the inner work necessary to heal from their past wounds. This is the baseline, right? This is the umbrella. This is the dome. This is the end all be all. Everything exists under this very last point, which is they're doing the inner work. I cannot stress this enough. You don't just go from being in a state of emotional unavailability to being emotionally available. There is a process in between, and it is going to be work. Is it going to be laborious, arduous? Not always, right? It can be the most enjoyable process, but it's going to take a lot from you. Well, not necessarily. It's going to take a lot. It's going to require a lot from you, not take from you, right? It's going to edify your life experience. It's going to give you everything that you would ever desire. But nevertheless, it's going to require so much of you. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to shift dynamics from what was once your identity to your true identity. You're going to have to shed the skin of the past. You're going to have to let go of aspects of yourself that you identified with maybe for an entire lifetime. That's the sort of work that we're dealing with. It's the inner work, the most important work there is to do. And so in order for us to get to a healthy state, in order for us to get to a place where we're emotionally available, where we are truly able to receive love, give love, where we can be intimate, where we can be connected, where we can be one with the other individual, where we can see them in ourselves and ourselves in them, where we can be truly empathetic and compassionate in that relationship dynamic, where we can give not from a place of needing external validation, but instead because we're so full and our cup runneth over. In order for us to come from that place, you're going to have to do the work. There's no other way. You're going to have to face those shadows. You're going to have to go into those dark and creepy crevices and corners that you've been avoiding, probably upward to this point in your life. And only then will you begin to see the fruits of your labor. You will begin to see the fruit of your life, right? Your life is going to change drastically. Everything will change about your life. Peace will come. Fulfillment will come. Tranquility will come. Love and connection and affection. And the healthy type of attention, which is the attention you give to yourself and is reflected through that loving, intimate relationship that you have, once that soulmate is reflected back into your experience. So that being said, let's go through this list one more again. As they used to say back in the day, one more again. Number 1, they have the ability. Oh, by the way, this is the 6 clear signs of emotional availability, just in case you forgot. Number 1, they have the ability to express their emotions and do not hold back in doing so. Number 2, they are willing to communicate through issues instead of suppressing them. Number 3, they are conscious of the subtle shifts in their emotional state. Number 4, or in your emotional state. Number 4, they are open to receiving as well as giving love and affection. Number 5, they do not project their insecurities onto you or others, but instead process them in a healthy manner. And number 6, they're doing the inner work necessary to heal from those past wounds. Mic drop. That being said, a quick plug of my very first published book, Doing Me Guilt-Free, Breaking Free from People Pleasing and Unleashing Your True Personal Power. This right here is a step-by-step guide in how to break away from the need of external validation, how to live your own life. And I believe this is the most necessary message right here, right now, in this time that we're in this transition into a higher state of consciousness. In order for us to truly transcend, for us to truly step out of these dark ages that we've been existing in and to live our lives in true light and freedom and liberation, we must indeed live our lives guilt-free. We must break the chains of what once remained. Now, I'm not going to get too deep on y'all, but appreciate you guys for tuning in for another one. Or maybe it's your first one. Until the next time, namaste, namaskar.